Good evening, everybody. So, my session, flood risks across scales. I'm very happy to present this, and I'm a researcher and consultant in the field of hydrology at Deltaris, based in the Netherlands, a knowledge institute in water. And in this Ignite, of course, I want to lure you into our session, and I have three major points with which I will try to do that. And the first is, I want to explain how important it is, flood risk, and why the scale looking at flood risk is important. The subjects and speakers of our session, I'd like to introduce those. And what do we want to reach in this conference as a whole, from the perspective of floods? So, first of all, the importance of floods. Well, as you can see in this picture, it happens all over the world and each year, and in particular in heavily, densely populated deltas. And it's about 1/3 of total loss by natural hazards caused by floods. So that's really considerable. And they're caused by different mechanisms, small scale and large scale mechanisms, which you can see here on the left side. And on the right side, you can see that there are also mechanisms in terms of socioeconomics that inflict these risks. Just a few figures from the Global Assessment Report from the previous speaker also. Well, annual GDP exposed is roughly $100 billion US. It's really amazing. Only floods, $100 billion US. And annually people exposed, 70 million people. It's really a lot to my mind. Now, why these scales? Well, that's because there are different players at different scales. There could be a player that is interested in global scale information comparisons, regional scale or local scale information. So let me try to give an example of this. Let's say that you are a multinational and you want to invest somewhere in the world, but you don't know yet where. So there you could use global information. Let's say you want to invest perhaps in the Netherlands and then you receive this scary picture of Al Gore. So should I do this? Should I invest in the Netherlands? I don't think so, perhaps. What I would suggest is then look a bit closer and see how it really works regionally. And then you will see that we have, in fact, storm surge barriers, dikes and such in place to protect us from these floods. And that's where the regional perspective becomes important and the system knowledge. When you look even more close and you already have an asset on the ground, some company, I don't know which one, but it's okay, then really very small scale information becomes important. Is this asset, this specific asset under threat? You really need this detailed information that you can see here. Now, and what we will do in this session is we'll try to cover all these scales and see what sort of information is required and also what sort of solutions are required to give this type of information, very small scale in this case, towards very large scale. So, let me just present our presenters, our session presenters. Brendan Jongman, who will talk about large-scale dynamic flood risk modeling approaches. Rosa Guale couldn't make it, unfortunately, but he's working on this reservoir. The role of reservoirs is very important in flood management, of course. We have Hamish Hall from Royal Haskoning, who is going to speak about the value of rapid flood modeling in Namibia. And principles and tools for urban flood management will be presented by Zuzana Svetlo-Zakova from the World Bank. I'm very happy with these speakers. And we will also discuss what these small-scale solutions lead to. If you have very coarse information, it's very difficult to interpret. When you go to very fine scale, you can actually establish where exactly the risk occurs. Which house, which asset is actually under threat. What do we want to reach in this conference? Well, data is the new oil. That's somebody said that. And open data and software is the new oil for risk assessment. That's my opinion, and I hope that we can agree on this during this conference. Let me just give an example from OpenStreetMaps. This is the Cape Town International Convention Center with all the parking terrains around it. And with a very simple calculation based on OpenStreetMaps, you can establish that the exposed value of cars is 5 million rand approximately in the neighborhood of this convention center. Very strong information, very easy to get. So imagine that we can progress this to a global flood model as OpenStreetMaps, where you can select your domain, use data available on the net, software to estimate flood risk, or even upload your own refinements for everybody to use, the whole community. And this obviously needs a lot of data as basis for such a platform, such as elevation or this OpenStreetMap-like asset information. And besides that, it will need a lot of software solutions, which give you information based on this data on low resolution for the whole globe, and perhaps high resolution, very high resolution when you zoom in. And of course you need also damage models to feed into that. And I think that we as a community can collect these and try to establish such a global open platform to do these risk assessments across all these scales. And you can see that these icons relate to all the sessions that are being done in the next days, and I really hope that we can work together on this, which is my next slide, obviously. Just like these elephants walking through the water, leading each other to the across from one bank to the other. Our session will be held in room 1.41 tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and I hope you will all join. Thank you very much.